Reclaim your power of focus. Your focus is probably the most important factor in the process of overcoming whatever challenges you face. A lot of people think that they have to have the right IQ, or they have to be born with certain advantages, or some sort of other excuse. They think that there's all these circumstances and factors outside of them that would explain their success or lack of it. And unfortunately, the more you focus on things outside of you, and I'm talking about your circumstances as well as the situations you find yourself in, or the people you surround yourself with, the more you lose sight of your focus. In fact, it can get so bad that you might ignore the power of your focus altogether. You might even completely forget how important personal focus is. Let's get one thing clear. What you choose to focus on grows. If you don't believe me, look at people who hit the gym all day, every day. These are people who may be obese. These are people who may look like they're made out of overinflated dough. But the more they focus on working out, sticking to a certain diet and lifestyle, the sooner all that fat melts off. Similarly, people who focus on making money, sooner or later, end up achieving their dreams. People who focus on attracting members of the opposite sex tend to, later on, connect the dots and meet with success more often than failure. In other words, you get out what you put in. What you focus on attracts your attention, which of course attracts your energy. When you devote energy to any kind of activity, sooner or later, you get good at it. Sure, in the beginning, it may look like it's impossible. It may look like it's just not going to happen. But the more you keep at it, the more you are able to figure things out. And sooner or later, these baby steps turn into giant leaps forward. What you choose to focus on grows. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter how seemingly impossible it may be. As long as you give it the proper focus, eventually it will give way. I can't stress this enough. Unfortunately, people think that success is something that just falls into their lap. They think it's something that requires inhuman sacrifice and effort. No, it's not. Instead, it's just a choice of where you train your focus. The good news. Given how important focus is, I have some great news for you. Focus is a choice. That's right. It's not something that you're forced to do. It's not something that you are tricked into or somehow coerced by your circumstances. It's something that you can choose. If you can choose it, then this means you have control over it. There are so many other things you can choose to do, but you can choose to focus. This is power. This is control. This gives you some measure of input on how your life is going to turn out. Real focus is never desperate. A lot of people are under the impression that things will only change in their lives if they find themselves with their back against the wall. They think that once the chips are down and everything is desperate, that's when everything falls into place. What they're really doing is looking for excuse after excuse to avoid lifting a finger to change their circumstances. That's all you're doing if you believe that you have to be pushed to make a decision. Real focus is never desperate. It is never the product of desperate times. It's something that you willfully choose, and it's something that you choose consistently and continuously over an extended period of time. Don't think that it's some sort of magical superpower that you discover at the last minute. You will always have the power to choose, and you will always have the choice of focusing. It is never desperate, no matter how bleak the situation may look. Reclaim your ability to focus. If you can wrap your mind around the idea that you can choose to focus, you can start reclaiming the power you get when you focus on certain things. Believe it or not, you can focus on your time to the extent that you can control the output you get when you spend your time on anything. I know this sounds crazy because most Americans think that there are not enough hours in a day. There are a lot of people who wish that there was more than 24 hours in a day. That's how pressed for time they are. What they're really suffering from, however, is a lack of focus. Believe it or not, you don't have to burn 8 hours at work to squeeze out 1 hour of productivity. Believe it or not, there are people out there who can put in 8 hours of work and get 8 hours of production. I know it sounds crazy, but that is the power of focus. Similarly, you don't have to waste a tremendous amount of your attention on many things in your life for you to maximize the results you get. You can focus intently on certain activities and have them produce a lot more results. You don't have to sit around worrying about certain things that may or may not happen. By making a decision, giving it the proper attention it deserves, and focusing the right amount of resources and attention to detail, you end up getting the results you want without worrying yourself to death or mentally burning out. Finally, you can choose to focus your resources to such an extent that you get a lot more bang out of every buck you spend. One of the main reasons why Americans are trillions of dollars in credit card debt is because of inefficient spending. The problem isn't spending. The big challenge is that they spend on many things trying to get some sort of outcome. They didn't know that if they spent on the right things, they would have spent less money and gotten into less debt while getting a lot more results. You have to reclaim your ability to focus on all these to start living a life of power, purpose, meaning, and direction. Unfortunately, people who end up struggling by moving a lot while staying in the same place suffer from a total lack of focus or fuzzy focus. The bottom line with focus is pretty straightforward. You only have a finite amount of mental resources in any given second. Make it count. Learn the skills that you need to get the most out of the time that you put into any kind of activity, the attention that you put into any kind of project, or the resources you devote to your plans. If you're able to do this, you start to reclaim your life.